In this video, I'm showing you how to get a bigger flaccid. Today, I'm showing you some tips and tricks, some that are going to be a little bit unconventional.
Yeah. Weird.
That will help you get a bigger flaccid. I'll go through why you may want a bigger flaccid,
I see how small you are.
some of the advantages and disadvantages, and some of the tips and tricks on how you can do this. So it's going to be a very interesting video. So let's get started. First, why would you want a bigger flaccid? So there's quite a few reasons. Let's say that you're going to a nude beach.
It shrinks.
And you want to make sure that you look good as you walk around. I've never been to one, but I can see the appeal. If you want to go and you want to look good and impress the ladies or the guys or whatever you're into, that's great. If you want to go in the locker room and you want to look good, or if you have a girlfriend potentially and you want to look a little bit bigger and impress her, or a hookup if you want to impress them, I think that's great. In my mind, I think it's just better to focus overall on how you're going to look erect. But I can see why there's a lot of reasons why you want to seem a little bit bigger, at least while flaccid. Now, I think one of the big reasons, at least for me, why I do some of these tricks is, let's say you would like to go out dancing and there's a lot of things that you want to be grinding on these chicks, and especially if you're younger and you go to the clubs and a lot of these chicks are like grinding on you, you want to impress them, right? And I'm basically going to talk to you about how you can gain like insane girth, maintain it, and a nice little trick that you can use in the dance floor so that when these chicks are grinding on you, they basically think you have a gigantic schlong and you'll never get made fun of. And hopefully these girls will get so impressed that they'll take you home, and basically you get to have a lot of fun from some of these tricks that I'm about to show you. And which is why I'm going to talk about some of the techniques and why I think some are better than the others. And again, this is my opinion. And these are my thoughts. With that being said, if you have any other reasons why you think you need a bigger flaccid, put them down there. And before we get started on the actual tips and tricks, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, especially that subscribe button. If you like my videos, if you find them insightful, if you learn anything from them, just hit that little subscribe button. It's such a small thing for you, but to me it means a lot. So with that being said, let's get into the tips and tricks. First, the easiest thing that you can do is basically take some Cialis. If you're young, you probably don't want to start taking Cialis if you're too young, but if you're like, I would say like mid-20s and up, I think it's perfectly fine. You probably want to start at a low dosage and go up as you get older. I think it's really good for the gym as well. And of course, everyone should be going to the gym. If you're like out in shape and you're obese and why even do PE? Like, just go to the gym. I myself have been working out quite a bit, and I'm working on losing some weight. Still got a little bit of fat going through, but definitely making a lot of progress. So in any case, Cialis is a good one, and L-citrulline is another good one. Just kind of FYI that if you have like HSV 1 or even 2, I think that it can potentially trigger those cold sores because of the arginine and the way that the body transforms it into that potentially. Just kind of keep an eye out for if you do L-citrulline. Cialis is perfectly fine. So you basically, the way that I do it is I take L-citrulline in the mornings and then Cialis at night or right before I pump. So that's the first one. The first trick is basically pills and supplements. Anything that basically can increase blood flow throughout the day. Also, if any other things that can increase blood flow, put them down below. But the two main things that I take is daily Cialis, L-citrulline. Moving up, the next thing that you can use is basically a device called an all-day stretcher. Basically, the way that it works is the all-day stretcher. You use super low tension, super safe. There's a ton of studies. Check out this video where I do a deep dive on the all-day stretchers. But essentially, you have to just wear this device, and you wear them for many hours, 4 to 6, some even 8 hours. And not only will it give you some erect gains, but it also give you flaccid gains. And in my experience, doing low tension is going to avoid causing things like turtling. So if you do really low tension, like I would say like 1, 2, maybe 3 pounds tops, basically you stick to that, and what's going to happen is your flaccid is going to stay nice long, and it's not going to turtle. Because if you do too much tension, which is why it happens if you use an extender or if you do hanging or anything like that, you're going to cause turtling, and we want the opposite, right? So I think ADS, all-day stretcher, is goated. Like, I think it's super, there's just not enough focus on it. It's super underestimated. I think it's a huge, there's just science, there's studies on it, there's science on it, and I think an all-day stretcher is the safest, most effective way that you can use to gain length. Unfortunately, it requires a lot of time, and it's kind of annoying. But it's perfectly safe. And the side effect is that you will get flaccid length. So I think it's a big one. With something what my other contemporaries did not talk about is the ADS. I'm focused a lot more on devices. An ADS to me is super effective when it comes to getting flaccid gains. The next big one, which is something that I do every single day, is pumping. So basically, essentially, you get a nice pumping routine. So check out my routine here using the DP 4000. If you want to see a video on different pumping routines, so I have another one coming up where I'm using basically just different types of routines, but the DP 4000 is my personal favorite. Now keep in mind, I've been doing this for years, and again, watch that video for that routine. But essentially, I basically do like 30 minutes essentially, and I go from like, I do like a little mini warm up. I do like 5 to 10 minutes warm up. Totally, that's actually 40 minutes. So I do a mini warm up, which is about like 10 minutes, or like around 5 to 7 inches of mercury. Then I go up to 8. I'll do that for 10 minutes. Then I'll do 9, 10 minutes, and then finally finish it off at 10 for 10 minutes. And I do a pulse pumping or interval pumping. Basically, I'll basically pump up for 60 seconds, release the pressure down to 5 inches of mercury for 2 seconds, and then go back up. There's different sort of routines. I'm going to make a routine basically where I'm trying out this Dr. Richard Howard's, who is also known as my penis doctor, his pumping routine, which is super interesting. It's called pulse pumping. In any case, having a nice pumping routine is super helpful. So anyways, check out that routine, because this is the routine that I use to go right before I go to the clubs. And basically, it gives you a super girthy dick, and you're just gonna feel huge, right? Which brings me to my next point, which is using a soft cock ring, a girth band, a toe shield, whatever. These things have a lot of names, but essentially it's just like a sleeve band that you cut into a little micro piece here. So this one is super thin. So this is what I like to wear. It's 1 centimeter wide, really small. And the way that it works is you can wear it, and it allows you to like heal the elongated stay. Now you have to sort of get the right girth for you. This one is 1.25 inches in diameter. So you want something that's kind of tight, but also not too tight where it's going to cut off circulation. So it's going to take a little bit of kind of experimentation. And the way that I combine these things is I will, like when I go out and I want to impress girls, and especially on the dance floor, is I'll take the Cialis, I'll pump where I'll get like this extra girthy, and then I'll throw this fucking girth band on, and I'll throw this on. My shit stays like, because it traps some of that edema, essentially traps some of that edema, and your dick stays fucking huge for like hours. Now the downside to it is that it may affect the way you pee. It may potentially affect your pelvic floor a little bit. If you're kind of like, if you're kind of scared about that stuff, just don't even bother. I see a lot of people that get scared, and then they're like super hypochondriacs, and they get like, oh, my pelvic floor, I have hard flats. Or like, if you're in one of those persons, don't even bother doing any of this stuff, because you're just going to psych yourself out. But it might affect like your pee, because it might, like, first of all, the edema, and then you having this on, like the way that you stream. So unfortunately, sometimes what I have to do is I have to pee. I have to sit down to pee, because like the fucking stream is like everywhere. But I'll take off, if I have to go to the bathroom, I'll take this off and sit down and pee. And it's a little difficult to sort of time it, but what happens is when you're on the dance floor, the Cialis allows you to get erect super easily. You have trapped some of that edema that you got from pumping with a cock ring, and your dick feels fucking huge for a long time. Now, if you're going to hook up with a girl, just sort of time it and take off the girth band like around maybe, 30 minutes before you think you're gonna get hooked up, or when you leave the club or whatever, just take it off, because you want some of that edema to go away, because you don't want it to be super smushy, right? You're basically just kind of impressing them to get them back to your place, and then when you get back to the place, you want some of that edema to go away. You want your dick to sort of rest a little bit, and then you're good to go. But you don't want to be having sex with too much edema. So you're just going to impress them. So these are like the staples. These are like the main things. There are other things that you can do, but I don't recommend them. B, I wouldn't do these myself, because what I just given you has been super effective. So the things that you can do are things like filler, right? So you can do hyaluronic acid or PMMA. I think these are like, I wouldn't get filler until I'm done with anything. I think these are the things that like lazy people get. So I want to, things like the Pneuma, I think that's like for lazy people that don't want to put in the work to doing like PE properly. But I think filler, I think, is a little bit safer. It's just something that I would do filler, but like at the very end of my PE career. You can get a lot of gains from pumping, but a lot of guys are lazy or whatever. But the downside with like filler is that potentially you can't do length work. What's the point? Like, you want to be able to do PE, you potentially can't even properly pump or do other types of work. I think you can pump, but definitely length work is a little bit unsure, because you may make the filler dissolve or disturb it in some sort of way. So if you more about filler and length work, leave a comment, because that's one of the reasons I wouldn't get it until the end of my PE career. So there's filler, there's other things like Botox, which is like Botox in the penis. Essentially Botox is like a muscle freezer. I get Botox in my face, like you can see, like I don't have wrinkles. I use Botox in my face. That I would never get Botox in my face, my dick, because it's basically like it freezes the muscle, right? Like as you can see in the face, like it freezes the muscle. Why the hell would I want a frozen muscle in my dick, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. I know it's safe and I know there's studies, but I wouldn't get it. Other things that people recommend, especially some of my contemporaries, are manuals. I don't recommend manuals in general. I think manuals are extremely dangerous. It makes no sense to me why people recommend manuals, especially for beginners. That's like the easiest way you're gonna hurt yourself. That's why a lot of people get hurt, and I've seen people really get hurt, get like Peyronie's and all this stuff. Like I've gotten messages, and I think manuals are extremely dangerous, and it just doesn't make sense to me how like that's going to help your flaccid, right? Like at all. So that's something that I absolutely do not recommend. I've never gotten like, oh my god, my flaccid looks so good after joking, and like, no, it's just pumping ideas all day long, girth band all day long, but like manuals makes no sense. So those are some of my tips and tricks and what not to do for my recommendation. Next, I want to talk about some of the downsides of doing this. Like I mentioned, the peeing, especially if you do the girth band, if you pump, you're gonna be like shooting streams everywhere. That can be a problem, especially when you go out to the clubs and you gotta go to the stall. Like that can be a problem. So what I typically do is I'll take the girth band off and I'll pull my foreskin back and kind of like let it rip, and that's fine. Or like if like I'll have to sit down maybe, but then your dick is gonna be so long and engorged that your dick might touch the fucking water, which is disgusting. So that's kind of like the downside. You might have to kind of play around with that to sort of figure out how to do that correctly. The other downside is like psychological, right? Like let's say that you hook up with a girl and she feels your big ass dick and she sees it and you're like super big, and then you guys end up dating and turns into something serious. And then how do you explain that? This is one of the problems with like pumping before sex. That's why I try to avoid pumping like close to sex, because I pump every day. Number one, it's squishy. Number two, it can hurt your erection quality immediately after. So that's why usually you want to wait a few hours after pumping to have sex. And it's squishy, and also the psychological, like you don't want to be, imagine you go on to a vacation with your girl and now what are you going to do? You're going to go pump in the bathroom while she's sleeping. Like that's super inconvenient. My girl, for example, knows that I pump. I tell her I try to pump like way before we have to have sex. I have had sex with her when like after pumping, and too much for her, first of all, where like my girth hits like almost like 7, maybe a little bit over 7, like freshly pumped, and my erection quality, so I just tell her like, no, I don't like doing that, and she doesn't like it either. So it's mainly because it's too much. If we go on vacation, she's like, hey, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm gonna pump or whatever. She's like, okay, cool, have fun, whatever. And I'll do this a little earlier in the night, whatever. So my girl knows everything, but it can be like a psychologically challenging. Like how do you bring this up to a girl? Like you met her, she saw your big ass dick, and now like flaccid, and then it's not. So it's kind of like one of the downsides of PE. But if you're just like hooking up and you're just trying to get a hookup and you're trying to get a girl from the club, like who cares, right? Like that, I'll do you, like that's fine. I've done that plenty of times. This bitch is like, oh my god, you're hung, you have a big dick and this and that, and then they want to go home and all this stuff. Mostly been on dates. I'm a little bit older, so I don't really go out to clubs like that, especially like reggaeton or like those black clubs where they be grinding and all that. But if you're into that, more power to you, try this out. So that's pretty much it. So those are the tips and tricks with some of the stuff that I do to get a bigger flaccid. Some of these things are like permanent. So if you do the ADS over time, if you do the pumping over time, that's going to translate to like bigger flaccid over time. That, of course, that takes time. If you're lazy and you don't care about length work, get the filler. If you, especially like the safe one like hyaluronic acid or some of the newer safer ones, that's perfectly fine. You do you if you want. If you have experience with that in length work, again, let me know. But yeah, over time these things turn permanent. Essentially, it just takes a long time. So just kind of FYI. So with that being said, let's move on to our final thought. And there you go, something super basic. I wanted to like bring in how I can use PE for dating. And if you're super advanced and you really want to impress girls, like the ultimate combo that I've ever done, look at this video for how to use PGE1 or a Prostadyl or Trimix injections for penis enlargement and for sex. This is what porn stars use. It's super advanced. Definitely don't dabble with it if you're kind of scared of needles and all that. So, but I definitely, that's one of the things, one of my tricks that I've done for hookups and like really impress them. Especially if you want to just have good fun and then like have them on rotation where like you're not trying to make them girlfriends. You just want them to come over once in a while and fuck, and they're like, they want that. No one has fucked them so good for so long with such a big dick, and they're basically want to get on your rotation. So just one of those tips and tricks that you can use for dating. You can use that with, I'm sure you can work on guys. I've only ever done it with girls, so I wouldn't know, but I'm pretty sure it probably would work for guys especially. So probably even more so, because I think I've heard in the gay community that there's a lot of people that really care about the dick size and all that. So I wouldn't know. But anyways, if you like this video, if you want to hear more of these types of videos where I'm not just doing product reviews, I'm doing more like dating and like sex stories and all that stuff. In any case, fire videos coming up. So I'm going to review the latest, well, not the latest, but I'm going to review the Lelove Magna Pro, the Best Extender 5, upgrades to the Epic Extender, a couple of new Lelove cylinders, and some other really interesting ones that you'll have to stay tuned. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, check out this video on the DP4000, and check out this other video which may be relevant to you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.